Hello everyone again and welcome to On Tour. It's the cricket programme where we look back at the West Indies tour of New Zealand. It was day 3 at Wellington at the Basin Reserve. The West Indies were still under the gun, but they were fighting for everything they had. I'm Barry Wilkinson. It's of course a very, very bleak morning on day 4, but we're going to join the cricket shortly just to give you a review of what's happened, of course, after day 3. A look at the scorecard now. It tells a story. New Zealand 460. The West Indies, they were 124 for 8 overnight. And in the end, they were bowled up for 130. Congratulations to Jamieson, 5 for 34. Southey, 5 for 32. The West Indies finishing day 3 with the bad light ending play half an hour early on 244 for 6. Campbell, test best of 68, and Jason Holder resumes on 60, and De Silva resuming on 25. Well, with me to discuss the day's play, we have, of course, our panel, including Tino Best, the former Barbados and West Indies fast bowler. And then we've got Johnny Barron, the man on the spot, of course. He's our lead correspondent. And we also have Vinod Mamchan, who's our Caribbean correspondent. Gentlemen, welcome again to On Tour. We look back, first of all, at the day's play. The West Indies still trailed by 85 runs. Tino Best, how do you see the West Indies play after day 3?
Much better performance, and I saw that fight, and I'm very happy that they were fighting. Lost too many wickets still, but the fight was there, and that's what Caribbean people want to see. They want to see that fight and that tenacity to want to do well.
Vinod, as you watch from a distance, are you seeing that the West Indies, even though if they are beaten, that some players have put their names in the selectors' minds for another tour?
Yes, Barry, they have definitely done that. They've put their names there again. Performances that we would have wanted on a more consistent basis, but it seems as if just when some of these guys are seeing the door, they tend to, just show their hands just a little to keep going. But nothing to really get excited about. But it's something that, at least for this test match, they're showing a bit of resolve.
Johnny Barron, conditions on day 3 look pretty much like they were going to favour the Kiwis. They didn't waste much time with getting the West Indies all out in the morning. But we just saw that fight from the West Indies batsmen, a fight that we've been wanting to see all series long. Is it a little too late?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is easy to feel it's a fraction too late as far as this game is concerned. But what I would say is that there was a very real danger that we could have been sat here wrapping the game up. And the fact that they're still fighting, they're still in the game, they're still behind the game, I think is really impressive. And as you say, conditions did suit the New Zealand bowlers today, but often they say actually at Wellington that batting gets a little bit more conducive by the time you hit day 3.
So, we look at what happened in terms of Craig Brathwaite, for example, continues to get out in a very familiar fashion. Bravo had a real bad struggle despite that very encouraging pre-warm-up games. And Roston Chase, who had a dreadful series, 11, 6, not and not. Blackwood, he got 20. Let's have a look at some of those dismissals and discuss them, Tino. You look at the fact that the West Indies batsmen who we were looking to perform, who had great pre-season, pre-test scores, did not come into the test series now and show that tenacity and that will to score big in this test series, and that was a letdown.
Well, to be honest, Barry, they just didn't adjust quickly enough. And when you play those practice games down in Queenstown on those very flat dorsal wickets, and then you pop up at the test match and you see 2 green wickets, it was very difficult for them to adjust right off the start. Yeah. So I'm a little disappointed in some of the dismissals being caught on the crease, but they just didn't adapt, and that's what's going to make you a good international cricketer, having the ability to adapt and rethink your approach in every test match that you come up against opposition who born and raised in these conditions.
Vinod, has Craig Brathwaite done enough to stay in the West Indies team for another tour? He's supposed to be the leading opener, but we're not seeing the leading scores from him. Has he done enough now that his series is over?
Well, he got out today to a brilliant catch. I thought that he mightn't have done enough in this series, but remember, Barry, leading up to New Zealand, he batted well in England. So he's just 28. He has 8 test centuries. I think he still has a way to go.
You know, Johnny, we hear this all the time. Players just do that little bit, that little enough to stay in the team. And then we wonder why we're getting consistently poor performances. I bring to you now Darren Bravo, Johnny Barron. You have followed his career from very, very young, but he hasn't looked good. Will you continue with Darren Bravo, or do you think he still needs a bit more cricket under his belt to continue playing in the West Indies team? Your thoughts, Johnny Barron?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult for Darren Bravo. He is on a poor run of form that stretches back actually for the West Indies, and it's difficult. I mean, there's always going to be selection issues if you're not scoring runs or the volume of runs that your talent would expect, and that is the problem for Darren Bravo. There's still a vast amount. I think the batting is more of an issue for the West Indies, as we've known for a long time, over the bowling, which looks pretty strong and pretty healthy. So it'd be interesting to see how this one plays out.
All right, you're watching On Tour. When we come back, we look at the successes, of course, on day 3. We still saw some pretty good batting performances. We'll review them when we come back on Tour.
Windies in the land of put up your it's time to jump up, people, are you ready? Windies in the land.
Welcome back to On Tour. Of course, you're going to be joining the live action shortly. The West Indies resuming on 244 for 6. Well, we had some pretty good and pretty decent batting performances. One that stood out was John Campbell, his second half century in his Test career, his high of 68. Now, the question we have to ask, gentlemen, about John Campbell is, has he done enough now to stay in the team? Because many people didn't even believe he should have been in New Zealand. But, he finishes on 68. What happens last is always remembered first. Has he done enough 68 runs to stay in the team?
I don't think so. And you have a man that's playing in the A team in young Shane Mosley, who scored 122 today, I think. And so that is what you want. You want competitiveness for those Test spots. And I don't think he's done enough, Barry. So I think the next Tech series that West Indies are a part of, I think it would give that debut to young Shane Mosley for sure.
Johnny, how did John Campbell bat? You look at some of his shots, he looked much more fluent, and he also found the gaps. He fought. He really showed what he should have been doing over the last 2 years. Your thoughts on John Campbell 68?
Yeah, I think John Campbell batted really nicely today. I think he occupied the crease, he occupied time. 11 overs, I know it doesn't sound a great deal for that first wicket, but it just gave the West Indies, after being tumbled out, the first couple of wickets went down pretty quickly this morning. It just gave them a little bit more solidity, and the fact that he went on to get a half century, and 68 was a fair effort, I think will give him great confidence. And these are not great conditions to play in, as I mentioned, for opposing sides. New Zealand have played at home. They played 13 series in the last 5 years, of which they've only lost 2. These are not difficult conditions, and that will give him enormous confidence going forward.
Vinod, you're one that was very sweet on John Campbell from the time he was playing under 19 cricket for the West Indies. We saw that potential, but he's taken a long time to come to the fore. Has he finally matured? Looking at how he batted on day 3.
I don't know if it's about maturing at this point in time, though, Barry. What I saw is that he probably took a page out of the book of Jermaine Blackwood, because he went out there and it was a positive mindset. Will that change his game from now on? I don't know. But he should at least look back at his batting in this series to realize that, once I play my natural game, I'm best suited to perform well.
Well, one player that is pretty easy on the eye is Shamar Brooks. He's very elegant. Many would think that Shamar Brooks looks a lot like Carl Hooper, and he's beginning to bat a lot like Carl Hooper in that he gets those good starts, but then does not go along. What can he do mentally to break that barrier, Tino Best, of getting these good starts and then going on to try and get a bigger 50, 100 or what have you?
It's just being consistent, just come back to the first class level and just back time and actually bat like how you would bat for West Indies, you know what I mean, when he's playing for Barbados Pride. But Shamar does have the talent, and he's waited a long time for opportunities to play for the West Indies, and he's fighting. I mean, at the end of the day, Barry, I wouldn't get rid of Shamar if I was a selector. Mm-hmm. I would just continue to just get into his head and just tell him that you're going to be here for a minute, I'm going to invest in you, but he has to score runs when he gets those good starts. But he's one that, and he's 31 going 32, so he still has a fair way. I always hear people say all the time, you learn to bat when you're 33, 34. So I hope that he continues to keep fighting. And I know Shamar Brooks is a very good player.
We talk about players and then we talk about the team, we get vexed with the team. At the end of the day, who are you going to drop? Who are you going to replace with who you're going to drop? And that continues to be the overwhelming factor in West Indies cricket. It brings me now to the captain, Vinod Mamchan. He's unbeaten on 60. We've seen him already. He's got 12 half centuries. He's got 3 centuries. He's good enough to come and score a century on day 4. But, has the captain done a good job leading from the front in this West Indies team?
Well, he hasn't been informed with the ball. I don't know if his stint in the IPL, probably he's taking a little longer time to readjust to Test cricket in terms of his bowling. But we always knew that he has that ability, to bat. And that is, of course, evident in his double 100 at home and also 2 other hundreds after that. I think tomorrow, in a short period of time when play gets going, he needs to just, bat together with Josh De Silva. De Silva is also giving him confidence as well, the way he's batting. And of course, Jason needs to hold his hand and just take De Silva along with him. Because if we're saying that basically this series is done and dusted because the West Indies, they're in a very perilous position when you look at the overall situation in the Test match. We must look at bright spots. And should Josh De Silva continue in the way he batted today, he was very composed and very compact. That's something that Jason would want to encourage and be there when play gets going shortly.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much. You're watching On Tour. The West Indies resuming on 244 for 6. When we come back, we're going to look at Joshua De Silva. This is only his second innings in Test cricket. And we also hear from Tim Southey, who had a pretty good day with the ball as well. We can't forget how well the New Zealand team did bowl. We're watching On Tour on Flow Sports.
People, are you ready? Windies in the land of put up your hands. The toughest time to jump up. People, are you ready? Windies in the land.
So welcome back then to On Tour. The West Indies resuming shortly on 244 for 6. Look, gentlemen, I want to talk just a little bit about Joshua De Silva. This is only his second innings in Test cricket, but from what I've seen, the way he's supported his captain, he's already looking to me like he belongs in this form of the game.
Yeah, for sure. He looks solid. And to have a captain like Jason Holder, who's scored a double 100 already in international cricket, I thought that partnership really gave the West Indies and showed the Caribbean people that these guys want to fight. They have to fight. And they were marvelous in that 74-run partnership.
Well, you know what's funny, if not ironic? The last time Jason Holder batted with his wicketkeeper in this fashion, Jason scored a double and his wicketkeeper, which was Shane Dowrich, scored a century. I'm not saying that will happen, but I'm just giving you some stats. Now, I want to flip the script. We have to be balanced. Johnny Barron, let's look at the bowling of Wagner, let's look at the bowling of Bolt, and let's look at the bowling of Southey. You've got 3 world-class bowlers, and the way that Wagner bowled, he showed that he is a real competitor. How good is Wagner, especially in his own conditions?
Yeah, Neil Wagner is a supreme competitor. He's not just good in home conditions. He's done very well abroad as well. He's done very well in the UK, especially Neil Wagner. But he just keeps on coming, doesn't he? He keeps, he's got a line of attack that he bowls, on and around off stump, and then he's got the short ball that he returns to over and over again. He's a very, very effective part of the attack. And you talk of this New Zealand attack. You've got the likes of Southey, of course, who's been around forever. It seems, over 10 years playing for the New Zealand, and also, of course, the fact you've got Jameson coming through with 5 wickets, then Trent Bolt wicketless in that first innings, coming into the second innings, picking up 3 wickets. They have a very dangerous attack at home.
Now, speaking of Southey, another 5-wicket haul. Let's hear from him about how he felt he bowled on day 3.
I think these two have batted well. They've come out and they've sort of still played their shots, as well as played and missed a few times, but they've hung in there. I think we've bowled well at times, but probably haven't been as consistent as we'd like.
Is it the pitch, Tim? Has that got something to do with things here as conditions have changed and as that pitch has flattened out a little bit, you're just not quite getting the assistance you were getting early this morning and, of course, yesterday?
Obviously as the game goes on, the wicket's going to flatten out a little bit, but I think the ball's getting a bit older. There's the odd one still doing a little bit there, which keeps everyone a little bit honest. So I think if we can bang away in areas for long enough, then I'm sure the next wicket will come, and then we're into the bowlers.
Fifer for you in the first innings, mate. You must have been thrilled for your own personal stats as well, and alongside Kyle Jamieson, of course. First Kiwi pair to get a 5 for each in an innings since Chats and Hadley. It's quite a record.
Yeah, it's obviously always nice to do that, but I think it just shows that the bowling group's been bowling well for a long time. We've seen this second innings, the guys are just continue to keep coming in, and it's great to share the load around, and the wickets have been shared around as well. So it's it's great anytime you take the 10 wickets and you take 20 wickets for a test match. So it's just great to see wickets falling.
When you look at the two guys in there at the moment, Holder's obviously pretty well set and he's playing well. He's playing the pull shot very well, and he's in control, it seems, of that short bowling game that you guys have employed this afternoon in particular. But there's got to be other areas in which you can attack. Will that be a big topic of conversation amongst the bowling group tonight?
Yeah, I think another night's rest as well, and we'll come back fresh in the morning. New ball not too far away, so the plans will obviously change there. But hopefully we can chip a couple out before that new ball. But yeah, I think you're always a little bit interested. I know he's played it nicely, but he's played it in the air. So guys sort of keep a little bit more interested when you see it going in the air like that. So yeah, I think we've beaten the bat a lot in his innings as well. So we haven't been too far away, but I think we just need to hang tight for longer periods of time.
Congratulations to Tim Southee, a real legend and giant in New Zealand cricket. So I want to ask you, finally, gentlemen, what are your hopes for West Indies day 4, 244 for 6, trailing by 85 runs? Still a lot of work to be done, but how do you see them going in day 4?
Well, to be honest, Barry, I'm an optimist. So Jason Holder 170, Joshua De Silva 120. The West Indian boys continue to fight. We end up giving New Zealand 170 to win, and we knocked them over for 130.
Tino Best is obviously still sleeping, but anything is possible. How do you see it, Vinod Mamchan?
Well, a big 100 from Jason. Of course, 100 on debut from Josh De Silva, and probably a half century again from Zari Joseph. And, little contributions towards the end. We probably set them about 170 and bowl them for 140.
I think you and Tina Best can hold hands. The weather's still not very good, Johnny Barron. The weather's not good in Wellington. Conditions will play a part. What will the Kiwis be trying to do to try and end this partnership by these two and win this game? What do you think?
Yeah, I think New Zealand just have to play in exactly the same fashion that they have all the way through the course of the series, and the way in which they do at home. They're very dominant with ball in hand, and those results across the last 5 years, show you how good they are. But one thing I would say is that, games have been won from this position. Notably, of course, England beating Australia in 1981. We were in a very similar position, and a certain all-rounder, of course, Ian Botham came to the fore on that occasion, and Bob Willis with 8 for 43 in the second innings. So it can be done from this position. It's a question of whether the captain Holder will be the star.
In fact, you also look at Australia versus India. VVS Latchman, that very famous double century. That's one game that came back from this very similar position, and they beat the Aussies. So it is possible. The precedent of this cricket is that things have happened. This is not a landmark match by any means, that the West Indies can still turn things around and come back and win. We wait to see. All right, so the West Indies resuming, trailing by 85 runs. They're 244 for 6. Jason Holder on 60, Joshua De Silva on 25. It's been a very interesting test match. I want to thank you guys. Tino Best, of course, in the studio with us, and Vinod Mamchan, our Caribbean correspondent, and Johnny Barron, our international correspondent. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Let's go over to Wellington. We hope the weather is much better, and see how the West Indies are playing.
People, are you ready? Windies in the land of put up your